Hi everyone, this is BrettFish. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Out of the Fishbowl. This particular one is going to be a difficult one. We're dealing with a difficult topic. We are looking at the idea of friendships that are no longer there. Friendships that have died, friendships that have faded, maybe gradually or maybe instantly, or maybe ones we don't even realize have ended. Not a happy topic, but stick with me because hopefully by the end of this we are going to head to a happy place. We're going to look at celebrating the friends we have, look at how we can be better friends, but I think it is helpful for us to take a moment and to explore the idea of friendships that we thought were really good friendships and suddenly or over time they are not. And so I was looking for a bunch of quotes to speak into this, and some of the ones that stood out for me, this first one really hit me the hardest, I think. It goes like this: stop texting first and see how many dead plants you've been watering. Stop texting first and see how many dead plants you've been watering. The second one goes like this: when people treat you like they don't care, believe them. And that has been a quote that kind of speaks to a whole number of things. When people show you who they are, believe them. But especially in the realm of friendship, when people treat you like they don't care, believe them. And then the third quote says, I didn't lose a friend. I just realized I never had one. And maybe these different quotes will speak to different friendships that we have or had or are thinking about. But let's reflect on them as we look at an episode titled When Your Friendship Hits the Fan. I've mentioned before that my best friend Rob died of cancer in 2015, and that was such a difficult time for me. And I think I've made the comparison before in one of these episodes, but definitely talking to a lot of people, that when my marriage ended, it felt like it was a hard thing to say out loud to people. And I actually spoke to Nikki, Rob's wife, the other day. We caught up after a long period of time, and I was like, yo, this is the most hesitant space to say this, but actually to say that the end of a marriage felt harder than losing my friend Rob to cancer. And in some ways, this idea of a loss of a friendship can feel harder than a death. And that sounds ludicrous. It's like, well, you just lost a friend versus somebody died. But I think the difference is when Rob died, I absolutely knew that he loved me. Like, there was no doubt about it. Like, we had this friendship and he was cruelly taken away. And yet when my marriage ended and when certain friendships have ended, it was actually a statement of, I don't like you, or you're not good enough, or this friendship is not worth maintaining. And so in some ways that can be a really hard thing to take on. And I'm sure that many people that are listening to this, you have the names of people coming to mind, maybe the faces of people, friendships, maybe that were friendships for the longest time and then are not friendships anymore. And sometimes that can be a once-off thing. Something happens and it changes the dynamic forever. But sometimes that can be a thing that happens gradually over time. And I think there's even times when it happens where you're not even aware of it. You suddenly realize, oh, I thought that person was my friend, and I'm starting to realize maybe I got that wrong. And so this is a really tricky topic, and I hope that, like, this isn't something we talk about, right? And it's not something that's noticeable. And so again, when Rob died, people knew about it, and so people were grieving, friends and family. There was kind of a visible thing that happened, or something that had happened in a way that people could show up, at least initially. Like, people knew about it. When my marriage ended, people knew about it, and so they were able to show up. The grief was obvious. People could step into that situation. And yet when a friendship ends, there's no sign. Everything looks the same. And so people can't maybe notice it on you. And if there aren't spaces where you can speak about that stuff to people that really care about you and really love you and are okay with difficult conversations, then you can often feel alone and lonely, and it can be a really hard place to deal with it. And often I think people don't deal with it because it's not so obvious. Often it's just kind of happened there in the background. And so having this episode that actually says, let's just be open about this, and maybe this sparks off a conversation that you have with a friend or a family member or someone that cares about you, about something that you just haven't got around to speaking about before because it was never kind of named or noticed. And so hopefully this will be that for some people. And I think part of it will be just me processing some of the friendships that I've lost. And there are two friendships in particular as I look back over the last kind of 4 years since I got divorced, since my marriage ended. There were two quite important friendships that I had, or friendships that I thought were important, that ended. And one of them ended by a process of ghosting, I would say, just ghosting on repeat. And so I would reach out, and this person would sound interested, and yeah, let's make a plan. And yet that plan never happened. There was always an excuse, or they were always busy, or it just didn't happen. And so time would go, and then eventually I'd reach out again. And just gradually over time, I realized that that person has disappeared. And this is somebody that really showed up well for me when my marriage was falling apart. And so that was a really tough one. And I know that they are going through a lot of stuff. But at some point, there's a moment of going, this thing that really showed up for me well, that really was a good friendship, is no longer that thing. And it's no longer anything, actually. And I haven't seen that person for a couple of years now. And then the second friendship was one that was really important to me. And it was complicated because they were friends with both myself and Val. And so that was tricky at the beginning. But we tried to navigate it, and came to a point where I actually called him out on it in a voice note, and just said, hey, this is what I'm feeling about the thing. It feels like this is swag and it's not happening, and blah, blah, blah. And his response to that was really positive, and he reaffirmed the friendship. But then nothing changed. And so again, I got to the point of realizing it's really that quote from the beginning: stop texting first and see how many dead plants you've been watering. And it really was that for me, because it was something I was so invested in, and I saw the friendship on a particular level. And sometimes you can be friends with someone and you have them on a particular level, and their friendship to you is a lot less. They might have a different best friend, and you think they're your best friend. And we all have kind of different, it's probably one of those spectrums where we're never going to be exactly the same kind of friends together, except maybe if you have like your one best friend, or certain people where that is the case. But a lot of the time you'll be a 70, someone will be a 30, and that's okay, and it works out differently. But this was that thing. And so eventually I stopped texting, and it turned out to be a dead plant. It turned out to be, there was nothing from the other side. And there were certain moments and occasions where the two of us would connect, and I just stopped initiating at those times, and again there was nothing. And so that was really tricky. And there's a verse in the Bible that, when it comes to friendship, that says wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. And that for me is a really helpful verse in terms of understanding who your real friends are. Like when you've got friends that you can really count on, then when they wound you, when they hold you accountable, when they say things that are hard to hear, when they call you on stuff, then you know, because of their friendship, you know, because they love you, that those hurtful, painful, tricky things can be trusted. And yet an enemy multiplies kisses. And so when somebody is constantly saying good things, but you never see it backed up in action, then you start to realize maybe that person isn't a friend. And that's what I realized about this. And so those were two friendships that over the past couple of years were not friendships anymore. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why people stop being friends. And it is complicated because it involves people, it involves emotion, it involves context and history and all those kind of things. And so here are two other quotes that I found that are not necessarily related to the two friendships I just spoke about, but might be related to some of the friendships that we are looking at. And the first one goes like this: some people aren't loyal to you, they are loyal to their needs of you. Once their needs change, so does their loyalty. And so sometimes there are friendships where somebody is just really using you, and maybe the reason why they use you stops being a reason. So maybe you were somebody that was really wealthy, and somebody's using you for your money, and then you lose all your wealth, and suddenly all those friends don't appear. There's a story in the Bible about that, the story of the prodigal son, where the young guy has all the money and he has all the friends, and then he runs out of money, and then suddenly no friends. And so the question, were they really friends to begin with, or were they there just because of the money? And so that is a thing. Sometimes people need you. Maybe it's for your skills, maybe it's for your access to something. Maybe it's because you got a good Wi-Fi connection or whatever it is. And one of the measures, I guess, of testing a friendship like that is seeing when that thing disappears, are they still around? Are they still friends? And that can be one way to realize that actually it wasn't really a legitimate friendship. And the second quote goes like this: if people don't make an effort to be in your life, don't try so hard to be in theirs. It's not worth it. And again, that goes back to that dead plants idea. If you are making all the effort and you are putting in all the time and all the energy, then I underline the word so hard, because I think this is kind of a yes and no topic, and I don't think we should give up on friendships easily. I think we should fight for friendships. I think we should really do everything we can to keep them going, unless they are abusive or unless they are hurting us and things like that. And I don't think the moment somebody hurts you or lets you down, you should be like, oh, cheers, you're not a friend anymore. So that is my starting point for this, is that I value friendships and I want to fight for them and I want to do everything I can to maintain them and to be the best friend I can be. But I do think that if people don't make an effort, don't try so hard to be in there. So don't keep on really pushing when it feels like you're getting nothing back. I think there's a time to go, okay, I need to walk away here. Okay, the other person isn't viewing me in the same light. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it doesn't have to be like a big philosophical, oh, they're evil because they're not my friend. Maybe it's just like, okay, this person isn't needing or interested in my friendship at the moment. And so I shouldn't kind of see them in the light of them being such a good friend, because that's just not true at the moment. And I do think it's a natural thing sometimes for friendships to end. I look at my 21st and I see photographs of when I turned 21. I remember looking at them probably 10 years later and going, I'm not friends with many, if any, of those people anymore. And nothing happened particularly. I mean, I maybe moved churches or I moved to a different area and did some different work and stuff like that. And so people I was naturally connecting with, I wasn't necessarily connecting with anymore. And so there are times when it's a natural season, and that's okay. You could be friends with somebody for 10 years and then you both move into different groups and different friendships and things like that. And that doesn't have to be seen as a negative thing. I think some friendships, I like the word seasons, because I think they can be friends for a time, they can be friends for a time period. And even one of the two friendships that I lost that I spoke about, as I said, like when I was going through my divorce, that person showed up for me so well and was such a good friend and was so encouraging and was the person I could turn to because he'd been through something similar. And so maybe that was just the season of that friendship. And maybe it's okay to look at it and go, okay, that's what it was, and celebrate it for being that and acknowledge that it's not going to be more than that now. And so it is sometimes a natural thing for things to be seasonal. But then I think beyond that, there are times when people maybe ghost you or people lie to you or pretend that they're a better friend to you than they're not. And I think there are moments when we can acknowledge that maybe this thing that I thought was a friendship isn't a friendship anymore. And I think it's good when those moments happen, because I think when a friendship ends in that way, in a negative way, that it's good to be able to grieve it. And so we spoke about my friend Rob dying physically. There was a time of grief and mourning. But when a friendship ends, we often just move on and carry on with life because no one can see, because nobody shows up. There's no grieving process. And I think it's important that, especially when it felt like a good friendship. And so both of these friendships that I'm talking about, they needed to be grieved. I needed to mourn. I needed to acknowledge that I'd lost something that was meaningful to me and turned out wasn't as meaningful to the other person for whatever reasons. And it's not about holding things against them. It's not about being bitter or angry. Maybe it's the opposite of that. Maybe the grieving process allows me to let go of any bitterness or resentment and just go, okay, that's not a thing anymore. And I know I've still got some work to do in at least one of those friendships that is still affecting me, that still does feel like a painful loss. And so maybe this is a wake-up call to me to be able to go, have your time of grieving and then move on. And celebrate the friendships you do have, because I have a lot of meaningful and amazing friends in and around my life. And the one thing I've been thinking, I've actually got an episode on friendship as part of this podcast. You may have heard it. And both of those people that I mentioned now are mentioned in that podcast. And I think I mentioned 20 or 30 people. So I don't think that's necessarily outing anyone. But I was tempted to take that podcast down because there's stuff in there that's not true anymore. I was speaking about these amazing friends, and it's like, but they're not amazing now. Like, they've hurt you, they've let you go, they're not interested in being friends with you. And then I thought about that thing of seasons, and how when I recorded that episode, everything I said in it was true, and it was true about those people at that time, and it may not be true now, and that's okay. And so there's a grieving process. There's a time to to go, it really sucks that that person is no longer in my life, because I really enjoyed that person. It was somebody I laughed with, it's somebody that I did faith with, it's somebody that we watched movies with, all those kind of things. And I think that's okay. And the same thing happened. I recently got married to Amanda. And when I think back or look back to my first wedding, which was 15 years ago, when I look back at those photographs and I think of everyone that was present in this wedding that's just happened, that's just been celebrated, I go, wow, those are two different sets of people. And the amount of people that were at both weddings, I think I can probably count definitely on both hands, maybe even on one hand. And again, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It just means that I'm in a different season of life, and that the people that we celebrated with this time are the people that are in my life, are the people that are showing up. And especially the six groomsmen I had. And there were one or two people that were overseas or in other provinces who would have been part of that group. But those six guys just showed up in such amazing, dramatic ways before the day, on the day, since the day. And it was incredible, an incredible display of friendship. And I think that it's helpful for us to pause and reflect on the friends that we do have, and realize that friends show up in different ways. But I think it's this thing of, like, I wrote down yes and no. And so when someone goes to you, when someone lies to you, like, do we just get rid of them? Like there's something in that that feels not okay, and how could you treat me that way? And so you don't deserve to be my friend, and so cheers. But there's also something that says, well, what about you as a friend? What about me as a friend? Have there been times when I've let other people down, when I haven't shown up, when I've been a bit of a shitty friend? And how would I want them to respond? Would I want them to just immediately get rid of the friendship, or would I want a little bit of grace and love and forgiveness? And so I think it's both. And that's what I spoke about when I said my base point, my gut point when it comes to friendships, is that I'm going to fight for them, that I'm going to really chase after them. I'm really going to value friendships, and it's going to take a lot for me to let somebody go and walk away. And so when it comes to friendships, I think balance is important, because some people will say in a friendship, it has to be 50-50. And I don't think that always needs to be true, because I think maybe we have some friendships where everything is about me giving to that person, because maybe that person doesn't have the capacity to give. And so I've got some friendships where 90%, 80%, maybe 100% of the time is me giving to that person. And when I connect with them, it's a lot of stuff from my side. But then I've got other friendships that tend to be like so much more take than give, and maybe some that are just completely take. And it's, I need something from that person, and so our connection is them giving to me the whole time. And so I think there's a time for both of those to be okay. But I think that most of your friendships that you have should be a bit of both. I think there should be some kind of equalish measure of give and take. And I think if most of your friendships are kind of 50-50, 60-40 give and take, then that allows you to have the space for one or two friendships that are all give, and one or two friendships that are all take. As long as the people that, so if there's a friendship that I'm taking from, I must know that that person has other friendships that are giving and pouring into them, so that we're not just draining somebody. But I do think that people experience different seasons of life. And so sometimes when I'm weak, then my friends are strong and they give to me. And there'll be a time when they're weak, and so I will pitch up in strength and be able to give to them. And I think that's generally what defines a good friendship, that there's give and take, that there's times when one person is able to really just show up more than the other person. And one of my best friends, I'm thinking of right now, that it really has been that. I've been able to show up for him many times, and he's been able to show up for me many times. And sometimes those are different times, sometimes it's the same times. And I think with my really good friendships, with the ones I value the most, it tends to be that it's this equalish measure of things. But that doesn't exclude the need for those other friendships to be there. And I think maybe the last thing I want to speak about on this topic is this open door policy that I have. And it relates to friendships, it relates to other relationships that I have. And it's not an exact science, but I think it's a good principle and a healthy place to generally be. And I think there will be exceptions. It's this idea that if somebody hurts me, if somebody walks away from me, so let's say we've got these two friendships that ghosted me, walked away from me, said we don't want to be friends anymore. The open door policy is that I will come to a time and realization when I'll stop chasing, when I'll stop pursuing those friendships, when I'll stop watering those dead flowers. But the open door means that at any time, at any point, if that person decides they want to be friends with me again, then they can come to me and they will find an open door. They will find a willingness to engage, a willingness to sit down and maybe have some hard conversations and do the work to recreate or maybe start again a friendship that can grow and flourish. And I think there are times when maybe we have to be careful of the open door. And that's maybe when there's things of abuse, when a friendship with someone is toxic and we actually have to put up boundaries because it's hurting us to be in that friendship. So I think there are exceptions, but I do like to sit in this place, and I think it connects with my faith, with a command from Jesus that says, love your neighbors, you love yourself. That anytime somebody says, I want to be friends with you, that there's nothing in me that's too big to say, okay, let's pursue it. Let me be open to it at least. Let me at least be open to a conversation. And when I think of those two friendships that I've spoken about, even though there's pain there, even though there's grieving and mourning that had to take place, I think for both of them, if the people came to me, I'd be willing to kind of pick it up and see what it looks like. And it might look different than the way it was before. But what I'm saying is that my commitment is to have an open door to people. I can't force people through the open door. I can't chase them down and pull them in. But if somebody has a moment where they go, yeah, let's talk, that I'm going to be open to it. And I want to encourage you to consider that maybe that is the same for you. Maybe there was somebody that did hurt you or did kind of ghost you for a season. But if that person changes, and I think there has to be some kind of change for the open door policy, I think there has to be some kind of movement, some kind of difference that takes place. I would hope, definitely for myself, but hopefully for you as well, that we can look at that and create space to have conversation, to have possibility, and to see what might be born. And if we're taking that plant analogy, the dead plants you've been watering, what might come to life again? What new plant might be evidenced and might be ready to be grown? As I wrap this up, let's just kind of reflect on those quotes from the beginning again, and maybe there's somebody in your life at the moment where this is the truth of it, and it's a hard, difficult thing. But in terms of self-care, in terms of loving yourself well, this may be something that is helpful. That quote, I didn't lose a friend, I just realized I never had one. And again, as we've spoken about friendship, there are some friends that really were the genuine article, and they were there when you needed them, and there was that season and they showed up. And that might just be true of this moment. You're not losing a friend. You're just realizing right now that you don't have one in that particular person. And there's that practical example, I guess. Stop texting first and see how many dead plants you've been watering. And that can be an easy way. Like, it doesn't have to be a malicious thing. It's just, if you have a sense that this person is not as committed to you as you are in the friendship, then you really can just take a step back. Stop being the first one to reach out. Stop initiating. And if you get to 5 years' time and that person has not reached out to you, then that may be giving you all the answer that you need. And that can be hard, but it really is a thing of, we need to be able to be talking about these things more with people that do care about us, that do love us. We need to be naming it. We need to be acknowledging it. And sometimes with the person, we need to name it with them and say, hey, this is how I've been feeling. It feels like this is all one way. And give that person a chance to own it. Give them a chance to show up. Give them a chance to explain. Maybe there's something you don't know about, and maybe the friendship is real and they've just, for whatever reason, been not present, or whatever it is. I want to end off with two quotes that speak to the brilliance of friendship, because even as I'm talking about what is a really difficult aspect of friendship or losing friendship, I'm reminded of so many people. A lot of those faces are fresh because we've just celebrated our wedding with them. And so I'm thinking of great friends from Durban that we're hoping to go visit on a road trip soon. And how every time I go there, I will stay in their house and I'll hang out with their family and get excited about the monkeys they hate. Or I'll go on a road trip with Mike and we will laugh in a way that I don't laugh with anyone else. Or I'll watch movies and drink wine with my friend Reegs, who has just sent me a voice note that I'm going to listen to right now. And so overjoyed, so grateful, so enriched by all the real, genuine friends I have who do show up. in different ways and who are present. And I want to acknowledge that I've got a number of friends, and I'm going to see some of them soon. I'm going up to Joburg, and there's one of the friends is a guy called Dan, who I was working out. I haven't seen for a couple of years, which is strange because normally I'll see Dan once a year. But Dan Riddell is one of those guys that I know we've organized to meet up, and I know I will walk into that room not having seen him for so long, and we will just instantly connect on things of humor, on things of faith, on things of family, and it will be like we've never left. And those are the best types of friendships. Like friends who are around and present that you can hang out with are great. But I've got some friends around the world that when you step into the room, no matter what the time difference has been, it's as if you've never left. And I think that is the sign of a true friend. And I hope that you have those kinds of friends. And more importantly, I hope that you are that kind of friend. And we can not do a lot in terms of working on how our friends show up, but we can really do the work in terms of what it means to be a friend. And so go listen to that episode that I made on friendship. And because there's a lot of principles in there about being a good friend. And I think that if we do the work of being a good friend, then more often than not, we're going to find that we have quality friendships around us. So let's end off with these two quotes. One by Douglas Pagels that says, "A friend is one of the nicest things you can have and one of the best things you can be." And I think that speaks to it. It's an amazing thing to have, but it is the best gift you can give to someone else. How do I show up in friendship to those around me? And then Linda Grayson, let her have the final word on it, as she says, "There is nothing better than a friend unless it is a friend with chocolate." And if that doesn't sum it all up, then what does? I hope that you have good friendships. I hope that you have good community and tribe around you, people that show up and love you well. And I hope that you have committed to being that kind of person. If you're complaining about friends, but you are not showing up as a friend, then there's work to be done. How can I be a better friend to those around me? How can I love well, not just in the measure that people give to me? How can I be over the measure that people give to me? And then maybe they'll lift up their measure as well. How can I show up as a good friend? I hope this has been helpful. Just touching on a topic that is tricky, that is difficult, that we don't speak about enough, even if it just kind of prompts you to speak about this with somebody else that you know, and give people around you permission. Maybe it's an opportunity to chat with friends you have and say, when did you lose a friend? Or what is the friendship that has been really difficult for you? And create some space for others to maybe mourn and grieve, and also give people a chance to celebrate the friendships they have. Thank you for listening to another episode of Out of the Fishbowl. Please continue to like and share and comment, and let's invite other people into this conversation. And a special shout out to anyone whose last name is Van der Pfeiffer. Until next time, I'm BrettFish Anderson. Thanks for listening.